I'm pulling a can. Like, Daddy, all of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the Barbies is bad. It's girls, and we playing tag.
Valentine's Day is over, so let's get right to it. Let's get to the love game. There's a difference between being in a relationship and being married. No. You probably think it's the same thing, but it is to a certain extent. I have been married before. Yes, Savvy has been married before. I got married like really early. I would say God told me that person wasn't for me. The sad part about it is, I'm gonna be honest, I still did it. And sometimes we marry prematurely because we think that it's going to take us to a level that we only can do for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I learned the difference. That's why I'm here to help you guys and tell you guys the difference. So if we hop right into it, y'all, when you are in, number one, a relationship, sometimes when you get into a relationship and you seeking, you be lonely. Sometimes we get in a relationship for the wrong reasons. Like, if you're lonely and you end up in a relationship, eventually you're going to need to, practice solitude and figure out, like, why, was this person for me and are they still for me? Two, some relationships are seasonal, meaning this person is placed in your life just to teach you a lesson. Now, when a person is placed in your life just to teach you a lesson, you're going to be tremendously hurt by a lot of things because they're placed in your life just to teach you on how to treat people. Sometimes it's what karma may bring back to you. Who knows? We hate those type of relationships. I know we all do. Now, the third one, you may get into a relationship and this may be the one for you. And necessarily, these are like the hardest relationships ever, because when a person is for you, you get hit with every test, you get hit with every trial, you get hit with every, tribulation and different things like that. But at the same time, no matter what type of relationship you're in, you have to be consistent on loving yourself. This is one thing I learned a long time ago, you guys. As a woman, I'm talking to the women. A long time ago, I used to love men more than myself because I didn't value myself. I used to be like, I need somebody, I need somebody, I need somebody. And guess what? I end up coming out of that because I'm like, I need to love the Lord more than I love anybody that he bring my way. And when I started doing that, I started having more healthier relationships. And I really just started to see myself grow that I never knew that I can grow in. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes as a woman, you have to be willing to grow, no matter if it's from an older woman, from pain, or whatever the case may be. But in relationships, you got to be very careful. And I know as women and as men, we latch on to so many people, whether you have sex with different people, whether you flirt with different people and you end up in bed with them, different things you just may go through in life, and you pick up on different spirits, you pick up on different experiences, and you bring it into a relationship and you think that, you can solve it. The main reason you have to practice solitude when you get out of every relationship, because you need to cleanse yourself. Once you cleanse yourself, you understand then, who you want to be, who you want to be with. You're able to foresee these things. And another thing, one of the most dangerous things is not knowing who you are before you get into a relationship. Because honestly, you guys, you have to date your purpose, meaning that you need to check off your boxes. And those are not just stupid boxes. Meaning, like, if you know you're somebody that's going to be an icon to the world, you can't go out here and go pick up little Suzanne in a bar, because little Suzanne in a bar, all she's going to do is know the normal version of life. And they're never going to see the bigger picture. They're always going to see the ordinary picture. So the thing of it is, it's okay to date within your range. So if you are, like I said, I'm going to say it again, because sometimes you have a plan in life and you end up dating a person and not the plan. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to date both of them and just love them all together. And I don't want to confuse you guys. So what I mean basically is that when you look at somebody, if you don't see your dream and their dream, when you're looking at them, you don't need to be with them. If you only see your dream, you don't never want to be in a situation like that, because you can end up being selfish. Meaning, okay, when you look at this person, I can see myself being very powerful. But guess what? I don't see them being as powerful as I am, because they don't believe wholeheartedly like I do. Sometimes you have to be mature and be with people who believe just like you do. When you date a disbeliever, or I'm sorry, let me clean it up. When you date somebody who don't believe, it strips you of your gift. It strips you of things that God gave you. So even with saying that, every relationship deserves its fight. So check this out. No matter what type of relationship you're in, if it's something that you see in that person and you love them wholeheartedly, it deserves to be fought for. No matter the situation, no matter what's going on. Because sometimes we get in situations and we give up too easy. For me, let me tell you something about me, you guys. I identified that, I just run off. I'd be like, oh, gone. But God told me, he said, one day you want to sit your tail down and work this out. Because if you don't, you're never going to find a person you're supposed to be with. So that's another thing. As women and men, sometimes we can get in situations and we just up and run. That's not healthy either. But at the same time, it's okay to have your guards up until you understand what you got going on. And nevertheless, this is another thing that's going to help you guys with relationships. And I think we all should pay attention to. Meaning that when you are in a relationship and your antennas go off or your gut goes off, like for me, I'm a very spiritual person. And sometimes it happens to the best of us. It's like your gut and your spirit to tell you when something is not right, but you won't listen just because you're in a relationship. Don't do that. Because 9 times out of 10, if God is going to talk to you about somebody who you're not in a relationship, he's most definitely going to talk to you about the person that you are in a relationship with. So stop doubting yourself. Stop just doubting that you're hearing from God, because eventually you'll start like doubting your gift. You'll be out here doing stuff and then you get to second guessing yourself because you can't even listen to the spirit when it's telling you something about somebody else. So even with that, let's talk about flirting. Let's talk about boundaries and different things like that, and why women and why men indulge into it. So it be times where in relationships, right, you may go through something, and I'm gonna tell you something, this is not right, but it doesn't get talked about enough because we look on YouTube, we surf all these different places, but nobody talk about these things. Like when you're in a relationship and things are hard, that's when people, they veer off and flirt, talk to other people. That's not cool. But guess what? In reality, it happens. It happened to me. It happened to plenty of us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it happened now, but it happened to me like a long time ago in high school. And I didn't understand it. It's like I was dating somebody in high school, and it's like when things got hard, it was only when things got hard, I catch them texting other females. I'd be like, what's up with this? Like, we should be able to fight through this. But God showed me a long time ago, you have conditioned your mind to be a runner because you understood what love was at a very young age. So at the age of 17, 18, I understood that it was worth fighting for, and we didn't have to do certain things just because we was mad at each other. But nevertheless, as I grew older, before I started maturing, and getting where I'm supposed to be at, you guys, I used to say tit for tat. Meaning, okay, you know what? If you're going to do this, and it wasn't a bad tit for tat, I had to learn. You can't do something just because somebody else did it. That's unhealthy. But basically, if a person made me feel some type of way, I'll get up and I'll run and I'll walk away instead of talking to them. It's like, okay, well, since you did this, I'm going to do something. It don't have to be the same thing, because sometimes you give people power when you do things like cheat back or you go sleep with somebody. You don't do that. And I would say, like, if you're somebody, the only reason I'm saying somebody, because I don't want to be biased, you guys. If you're somebody who's in a relationship and you feel like you're not getting everything that you're supposed to get, meaning for like attention, love, and just those nice, sexy gestures, communicate that with your partner. Because then if you don't, what's going to end up happening, your partner's going to go out and they're going to go search for other places. You don't want that. And in a relationship, everything that I talked about within this 9 minutes, you guys, I'm going to tell you, it's exactly what relationships are. And it's only this way because this is what we have been put down on this earth, to do. Meaning to be down here, enjoy our life, make mistakes, grow from our mistakes. And you can do it with or without somebody. That's the most important thing. But another thing before I get to talking about marriage, you have to learn how to, how when you get to that altar and you commit yourself to that person and you love that person with all your heart, you need to marry yourself before you go marry somebody else. Because if you don't love yourself like that, what you gonna do with a mate? What you gonna do? You're not even gonna understand it. So as I'm talking to you, I'm not sitting here telling you, because the thing is, this video can be like 3 hours long. But because there's so much I know, no matter the age, only reason I know so much of this is because I've been through so much. Let me tell you something, you guys. My love life started so young, to the point to when I was 16. I wasn't having sex. I wasn't doing anything. But guess what? You know, I was in that era of just like trying to figure out what love was, because I seen my dad give it to my mom, and I'm like, okay, so what's this about? You know, are we supposed to do this, or is this healthy, or, you know? And once the first boy ended up talking to me, I was like, oh, okay, this cool. And it took me a while to get into the sexual activity, but at the same time, I still was like, what is this? You know, and that's how I knew I was embedded with a thing called love. You know, to have the gift of love. Everybody doesn't have that gift to be loved or to love. Some people are just here on missions, and what that means is some are called and some are not. You know, but at the end of the day, you guys, it's very important that you pick the right person, because if you don't, you would end up losing your purpose. You know, you'll really end up losing a lot. And you don't want to do that. I remember being married, and you guys, I lost so much in valuing who I was. And guess what? You can't always blame it on the other person, because you know you'll tell one supposed to marry them. No way. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, you have to be accountable. When things don't work out, don't always blame that other person. Look, you're going to have to sit there one day and say, you know what? Even though that didn't work out, I had my part in it too. I don't care if you felt like you didn't do no wrong, which that would never be the case. You done some wrong. It's just the fact that you wasn't outside your body to see it. You see what I'm saying? And you just have to make sure in relationships that you pick your person. Don't say yes because marriage is something that you want and you've been wanting. Don't be vulnerable to love. Be very wise about it, because sometimes we get in a place and we're like, oh, I want to be married, and there's millions of women around here that would love to be in my situation, so I'm just going to say yes. That should not be your case. We have to stop stereotyping love and start looking more into like why we're doing it. And this goes along with just making sure that when you're in a relationship that you're loving on yourself. If you don't love yourself, you will end up decaying like a tooth. You know how a tooth, you'll keep eating, eventually that tooth is gone. You will stay with that person for so long, and you'll look up, you done vanished as a person. This is something that you don't want in a relationship. But this is the thing of is there are beautiful things about being in a relationship with the right people. When you're in a relationship with the right person, you know what's going to happen. You're going to flourish. You're going to grow in the spirit. You know, everything gonna be multiplied, times 10. These are things that we really have to pay attention to. And another thing that I want to talk about, with being in a relationship for, as I would say, women and men. So for me, and this is something I had to learn a long time ago. It hurted me dear. If you are a daddy's girl and you get in a relationship, let me tell you something. That man is not your daddy. And you want to know why? You can't do this because it will be hard for you to move on. Meaning, there was a time I lost my father and I got in a relationship. And I applied the love of me missing my dad on this man. That wasn't his responsibility to fill that void. That was God's responsibility. So now we not working out because I want you to be my daddy. I want you to fill that void that you could never fill. You'll get the sense of a father from him, the sense. But you can't provoke that, because if you provoke it, it's not going to help you at all. And then another unhealthy thing is you'll end up moving on to somebody new, but you will never get over that person, or you'll always hold on to this person as like a friend or a best friend. Now, let's be honest, you guys. That whole male and female best friend sometimes work out, sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes we have it for the wrong reason. And having that daddy sense from somebody, it will really have you holding on, and it will prevent you from finding your person. Like, there are some people, and I'm talking about women and men, meaning because men sometimes they do it too. They have these women that they just feel like, okay, I felt my mother from her and she's so nurturing. I could never let that go. But when God calls it to end and you have to move on, God has given you another form of nurturing and you have to accept that in order to move on. It's the same thing with women. So basically with women, if you have met someone and they remind you of your dad and it didn't work out, please move on. Move on if God say move on. And guess what? Go and deal with those emotions of you missing your father, because it's nobody's responsibility for your healing but you. That's another thing that I don't like, because for me, I miss my dad dearly. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do without him half of the time. But I'll be so wrong to convey all those feelings on a person that I'm with and making them feel like they're supposed to fix that, because they can't. You know, they really can't. Now, I'm gonna tell you something that's not really bad to help you guys is if this person remind you of that parent and the sensual feeling is there. Sensual meaning like this is something that you pick up. You're supposed to nurture that part. Don't force it. It's a difference between nurture something that you pick up and then forcing it. You know what I'm saying? You be like, oh, I met this person and I noticed this in this person and I'm going to pour into those areas so it can multiply back. And guess what? It's going to help you grow. It's going to help you heal because you are literally doing something. You know what I'm saying? And it's helping you in ways you never thought it would help you. Now, since we're talking about this, let's go on to the marriage part. We are at 16 minutes. Just look, stay with me. I'm going to help you because guess what? As I'm talking, I'm helping myself. Now, marriage. People don't understand. When you get married, no matter if it's the right person or it's the wrong person, let me tell you something. There's something about covenant that you can't play with. Another thing. Something that blows my mind. For me to work where I work at, and people call in, they getting divorces every day. It changed my whole aspect of just like, wow, there's people out here, they're giving up every day. I mean, I can't talk because I did, but it's like, at the end of the day, why are you giving up? And when you realize the reason why, was it enough? You see what I'm saying? So for me, that's a story for another time. Honestly, I feel like, you know, me walking away from my marriage or just letting it go, I'm like, this is more than enough because I almost lost my life. But at the end of the day, let me tell you something. You don't play with the covenant of God because God hates divorce. But then in one breath, he say, hey, if a wife or if a man shall, or if these things are done, you know, he honors it in a way. He just hates it. But let's get back to the yes and no. With marriage, once you get to that altar and you say yes, and God gives you that covenant because you took those vows, despite if you married the wrong person or not, you're in covenant. You took those vows. And if you took those vows and you were struggling in your marriage, you have the heartbreaking point. It's the heartbreaking point right here. You got to go back to that day and say, hey, when I married this person, we are having these problems now. Or are we fighting because I married the wrong person? Or am I fighting because I'm supposed to get through? And guess what? You will never know if you don't go to God. So for me, I'm going to be honest, when you marry the wrong person, when you marry the right person, because both of those matter, you have to figure out what your fight is for. If you don't know what your fight is for, you just out here married. Don't just be out here married and not knowing who you married to and what you fighting for. Look, sometimes you're fighting because God got a bigger, when I say something so, man, something so amazing for y'all at the end. He rises up these incredible leaders together to be a testimony to other people to make it. But then if you married the wrong person, y'all fighting because you in a covenant that you didn't even want. But you did it anyway, and that's the price you paying. So you got to figure out when you paying the price. And when you actually fighting because God said, I have bigger for you guys. Keep going, keep going, keep going. You know, and for women, if you really want to know if your sole purpose is to be with that man, read the books of Proverbs. You know, male and female. Read the books of Proverbs. Read the books of Acts if you want to know about your gifts. See, the thing of it is, as me being a creator and being who I am, honestly, I know so much about this. About the spirit, about God, I mean, about a lot. And I fell short, I fell away, and I've been away for a minute, but at the end of the day, it doesn't stop me from talking about it, because I feel like me being transparent is helping you, it's helping somebody. Like, I don't have to be quiet just because, you know, you may feel like I'm not in that place. That's nobody's job but God's. So for what I'm saying, honestly, you guys, the experience that I went through, it changed my life. It changed my heart on how I actually view things. And I had to go to God and actually get that cleaned up, because if I didn't go to God, let me tell you something, I would have been a wreck. Now, you see what I'm saying? And even with marriage, you get tested. Let me tell you something. When you marry, the reason why you need to stay prayed up, you need to stay prayed up either way. Because when you get married, you get hit with those tests you never dreamed of. You be like, where this come from? I'm married. You gotta know how to say no. And guess what? If you indulge, you paying the price. So we don't want to talk about the price, you know, because the thing of it is, God and just about everything about marriage, man, and if you don't do right, those prices that you pay, can't even speak of, because we know of them. You just can't move a certain way when you marry. You can't. You can't. Even if, I mean, your heart, your flesh, your mouth, your hands, the will, you can want something all day. But guess what? When you do it, the price you gonna pay, man, look, you think, because you go do what you want to do today, but God he may creep up on you 5 years later, and you may pay that price. And you be like, dang, why I'm going through this? Or why this happening? You be like, dang. But this is something we don't understand. And this is why I look at marriage different, because it's like, we gonna be serious. Because if we don't be serious, my life is on the line. My mental is on the line. You know, my gift is on the line. Who I am is on the line. Who God want me to be is on the line. But nevertheless, of what I'm saying, you have to get to a place to where, if this is the person that you are married to, you gonna have to go to him about everything about that person. Look, I learned the hard way about that too. When it comes to your problems, go to God. Because sometimes look, people, sometimes they can't even help yourself, and they be having the best advice. You be like, dang, that sounded hella good. But then if you go ride up in their home, it ain't looking nothing like what they told you. You be like, man, like, where did they get this from? It be on the inside of them, but they don't know how to get it out. You know, and that's a serious thing too. Like, when we look for teaching and we look for examples, at the end of the day, you're accountable for what you let in and then you push out to your partner. And like I said, you guys, relationships and marriage, this is something that is more serious than what you think. It's way more serious than what you think. And even though we're talking about marriage, let's also talk about the in-between. So the in-between is, like I said earlier, when things get hard. When things get hard and you file for that divorce, or you separated. Look, let me tell you something. When you separated, I mean, because I did it. When you separate and you just know you divorcing that person, you move on. You like, I know I ain't going back to them, so it's whatever. Let me tell you something. When I realized that it was over, I didn't go right off into speed dating and just talking to people. Oh, I was out here hurting. I didn't understand nothing. I was an alcoholic. I was 100 pounds. I wasn't eating until one day I understood my life was on the line. I said, God said, yeah, you hurting, but you're not going to live long if you keep doing this. So The in between is when you there in that place and you go date somebody else, or you involve yourself in selfish activity or just activity with other people because you're separated. At the end of the day, let me tell you something, that needs to be a part of your testimony. You want to know why? Because when you're hurting, you just don't know, and there is no excuse for that. But we're not supposed to indulge into activity until we fully divorced. And I'm telling you, like, that was one of the most hardest things ever for me, because when I actually ended up knowing that my life was changing, and when I met my person again, let me tell you something. When you know that it's over and you end up meeting somebody else and you indulge into that, you really have to be careful, because you don't know if you're doing it to replace time, or are you doing it because there are so many times that you divorce somebody and you meet the love of your life. Then there are times where you divorce somebody and then you meet somebody and it's like you was just passing through time. So that's another thing, just identifying those two. You have to go to God and ask him, what is this? And you be having unique connections with people. Sometimes you don't understand. You like, I just can't stop thinking about this person. Look, this what you do. This what you do. You should have practiced solitude. If you're with somebody and you can't stop thinking about somebody else, that lets you know right there you didn't have enough time to yourself. And when you don't have enough time to yourself, you're gonna end up thinking about all woulda, shoulda, coulda, who, da da da. Get some time to yourself to where when you with that person, you are fully with them. You're not with them in your mind somewhere else. Your mind has to really be invested in your marriage, and it has to be invested when you're in a relationship, because either way it goes, you're robbing yourself. If you are into it with your mate or the person you're in a relationship, right? But then you're thinking about somebody else, it's like you robbing every chance of your relationship of it working. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not even you got to be accountable. You like, my mind is here because I may have prematurely married. I didn't spend enough time to myself. These are things you have to be accountable for. You have to be, and then if you don't, you're going to end up making mistakes like cheating on that person, doing different crazy stuff that you can't allow yourself, to do. And just a little disclaimer, just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean I'm indulging in it or different things like that. And the reason I say that is because sometimes we talk from a place of just when you get communication and then you just put it out. Some of the stuff I'm telling you guys, I never went through, but there's a lot of stuff I have went through, and I prayed about it, and God showed me how to avoid it. He gave me provision and said, you know what, if you were to do this, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the end goal. Provision is nothing to play with. I'm telling you guys. And a lot of stuff I experienced it because, let me take that back. I may have been in a room with this person when it was confession time, where they telling me, I'm like, hold on, God, I feel like I'm going through it with them. And I actually sit and have conversations with them as they're going through it, locking in with them. And I'm like, man, it feel like I'm going through this, I'm stomaching this, and let me tell you something. No matter where you are in life, just make sure that you're listening to your gut, which is your spirit. Make sure that you're loving yourself more than you loving that person. Because if you don't, you'll end up committing suicide or trying to commit suicide because you're not with them no more. Whether you're married or in a relationship. Like, we really have to get this thing figured out, you guys, of like being with somebody else and only being with them. You know what I'm saying? And not seeking outside of what you got because you're not happy. The black home is so known for not being together as a family that we have to get more people talking about stuff like this so we can understand why as a black woman it's important to stay in the home. Why as a black man it's important to stay in the home. Sometimes you just can't. So don't look at this and say, hey, just because this is the stigma of the world, I have to stay in the home. There are some people that are in situations and they're not happy and they're just there. Do not rob yourself of eternity of being who you are and who you could be. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you something else. If you are that person and you are a powerful figure to the world, make sure that you lock arms with the person that God told you that was for you. And the biggest mistake you can make is be with them, have kids. And this the more immature part, and it's so sad. And I thank God, you know, in the marriage I knew I wasn't supposed to be in. I got pregnant and got pushed down the steps, and you know, I lost the baby. But I ended up not being in that marriage, and I wasn't able to bring any kids in with the marriage. I don't know where I would be at if I would have had a child with that person. But the most heartfelt, craziest thing is to know you're not supposed to have married somebody and have a child with them. And it's like, because you lustfully, you know, I mean, you're in the bed because you in covenant, right? You know, that's who you're supposed to have sex with. That one person. There's no cheating when you're married or when you're in a relationship. You're not supposed to play those games either way. But now you have brought a child into this world, and this child literally identifies you not loving their mom or their dad, and now you don't know how they're receiving it. And we have so many kids where their life is jacked up because of that. So that's you just taking accountability of just not making a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I had a child by somebody, you know, that I'm not married with, and at the end of the day, I'm accountable for that. I know how my son loves his dad, you know, he loves his mom, and at the end of the day, you guys, let me tell you something. I still pray for the covenant of his mind, because at the end of the day, he's so young. You don't know how he has digested. You don't know how these kids are digesting it. When I say I pray for that very thing, because when they go to sleep and these kids battling suicide at this time and age, you gotta understand, like, some of the kids are not happy because they wish their parents would have made it together, and they're not understanding why this is this way, why this is this way. Then they get older and they just learn to love the person that their parent has chose, because it's like, okay, now I get it. You know what I'm saying? So even unless of it is, you know, with me being where I'm at in my life, I learned to just pray for the person I'm with, pray for the covenant of the house, pray for the kids, you know, and just make sure they get that understanding. Because at the end of the day, you know, this I'm gonna let you know this video is gonna be a little long, because I want to get everything out to help you. And as parents, we have to learn how to just be the parent. Because for me, a long time ago, I'm gonna tell you guys this, because when I wanted to be the parent, the protector, and a yes and the no, meaning I do everything, no matter what you say, I harmed my child more than I helped them. For me, I never been a person to always, like, for me, once it's over, it's like, I mean, that's probably bad, but once it's over, I don't even want you calling my phone. I be irritated, because I be wanting to just, like, I don't know. I couldn't move backwards for some reason, even if God told me to. But look, you guys, I'm just playing. Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, sometimes we have to let go for our kids. Like for me, it's certain areas in the prior relationship that I had with the dad that I had to let go in order for my child to grow and understand that me and dad is not together. But it's okay for you to accept the situation, because I love you enough for you to go and love somebody else. That took a lot. Like, it took a lot of me for me to allow my son to love another woman that wasn't his mother. Now, I got over that. He's 11 now. I got over that when he was like, 5 or 6. And what happened was, I felt like another woman loving my son, he could possibly, like, love her more than me, or, you know what I'm saying? So when bad things were said about the young lady, it's like I never tried to protect her from that. It's like when people would say different things, I used to indulge. I'm like, I used to, my way of indulging is just not saying nothing. It's like, okay, But I never would verbally say nothing, because I never would want that I wouldn't want that coming out of my mouth. But what I end up learning is that I'm like, the father of my child was with somebody that really loved him and really loved my son. And I'm like, at this point, we can just all do this together. Look, I'm going out Saturday. Can y'all get him? Look, once I felt like this woman love my child, oh, do what y'all gonna do. Get married, because I need you to stay there. Because the next woman that may come may not love my son like you. So I'm happy. But I grew up years ago, and it's important that we play that role. And it was hard for me to play that role at first, a long time ago, but I had to. I really had to. And I had to lay some boundaries down, because, you know, since I'm the person to never go back, it was always an era to where, you know, he may try to come back, and I'm like, stop it. we're not about to confuse son, and you're not about to confuse me. And I think that's another reason why I never, you know, went back in relationships, because it's like, I don't like to be confused. Like, are we in this or we're not? Because if we're not in this, I need to go do something else, because I'm not that type of woman. We have a lot of different type of women. I heard a lot of different type of men. And if you're not a certain type of woman, you don't have to indulge in extra curriculum activities. You can choose somebody. I'm the type of person where if I choose you, you off the market, because I'm loving on you. Look, you gonna feel that, and you're lucky. Just like whoever chooses me, I'm lucky. That's how I look at it, because I'm gonna pick somebody, you know, because look, the man, like, you pick each other, because if you don't pick each other, y'all both gonna say yes when you get to that altar. But in my time of growing up, and people, I'm just gonna give you an example. Like, if this is not just now, but just my whole life, and take this for male and female, there are some people who are very, very, very royalty. They're very, very high in the spirit. They're very, very, like, powerful in who they are. They're very, very, like, them. And I'm gonna be honest with this too. For me, I'm like, if I even had a conversation with you, or even if I like you a little bit, like, that ain't, you lucky. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you need to feel like that too, because what it does is it takes you away from just liking everybody. You need to walk around like, okay, I'm picky, I'm choosy. You should be too. Get with somebody who's picky and choosy about who they with, because then if you go get with somebody who date any and everybody, then you gonna be, you know, sitting up here sad, because you're trying to figure out why they can't stop cheating on you. Because then you even get people who are selective and they still will cheat on you. But at the end of the day, beating the odds is being with someone who understands that just talking and being with just anybody is not okay. That's just not okay. And like I said, you guys, I've learned so much with being married, being in relationships, talking to different people. Even when I had male friends, you guys, it was like one of those things to where I had to make sure that it was worth it. Meaning, if I knew it was worth it, and I may have known I wasn't going to be with that person, but I was just passing through time. I'm like, I'm not in a relationship, but if I do talk to you as a friend, it's going to have to be worth it. Like, you see, like, you even need, when you are in your dating stage, you even need to talk to people who's worth it. Just don't get to dating whoever because they got money. No. For me, money never mattered. You want to know why? Because I've been rich spiritually for so long. I didn't need that. I'm like, man, I don't need no money. Like, when I'm so rich spiritually, I'm like, man, look. At the end of the day, I need you to bring me spiritual food, because when I'm about to go bankrupt, I need that energy, that cash exchange spiritually. Like, if you give me $1 million, I'm going to be happy until I spend it. But then spiritual wealth lasts for eternity, especially if it keeps coming. If it keeps coming, if it keep coming, if it keep coming, if it keep coming. But look, let me tell you something else. What allows me to be a woman that loves one man is because, let me tell you a little story, you guys. What allows me to just love just one man and to be that woman, because I want to clean it up what I said earlier, is that I seen my dad. Sometimes we go through things that make us who we are, which is okay. But you guys, I seen my dad go through a heartbreak that I never want to put a man through. Like, I laid in the bed, meaning like when my dad was crying, yearning for my mom, it's like, as a woman, I could never make a man feel that way, because the hurt my dad went through, it put something in me that made me want to love a man. And when he gave me that, I knew it was special. So that's how I know I'm special. You gotta know your whys. You gotta know your hows. You gotta know and why not. And for me, I know why I'm special, and I know like why not, meaning why certain things just didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? I could never do that, you guys. And this is me just telling you who I am as a person and why I value love the way I do. You know, that was such a heartbreaking time. You know, for me to see my dad go through that, like, he loved my mom unconditionally. Like, he loved my mom so much to the point to where when he was crying and he wanted to stop taking his medicine, he was like, the person I've been with for 21 years don't even want me. There's no reason to live. Like, I have to stop myself from crying because I miss him so much. Like, he loved my mom so much, you guys. And at the end of the day, I understood that there was love out there that will capture who you are no matter what you're doing to that person. He loved my mom even when she didn't love him back. And when you understand and when you're in a position to see that a person is being mistreated and they're still loving that person, it's called unconditional love. Everyone don't get that. Everyone doesn't get that, you guys. And I wholeheartedly want to tell you this. There's so much going on social media. You can get your teaching from anywhere. Oh my God, there's so many podcasts. I don't have a podcast. I call mine a talk show because of, you know, how we do it. But when you're learning about this modern age of women, when you're learning about the hurt of a man, you know, the hurt of a woman, or the hurt of a marriage, or the hurt of a relationship, make sure you're talking to your person. You can't talk to the internet, because talking to the internet is going to leave you without directions and just feelings. You know what I'm saying? If you somebody that's like, oh, well, I'm going through it, let me just try to look at some memes, or let me scroll and find something that applies to my spirit, you can't do that. Because if you do that, you're going to be in a place like, when you mad, you're going to get to responding in areas that you got off social media. And you can't do that. Because I feel like, and the only reason I'm saying it, because I feel like the situation with my mom and my dad, my mom seen so much of what was out there, because social media wasn't that popular. Same thing, what you see. She applied that into what she thought she was missing. And at the end of the day, she wasn't missing anything. Only thing she was missing is communicating. Like, even, because she went to him and said, like, hey, you don't take me nowhere, you don't do this. Look, okay, even if he didn't want to go nowhere, plant that seed. Plant that seed. So for me, I'm looking at it like, okay, one time, like, I thought she was coming home. She just stopped coming home. That changed my life. It changed me in how I should love a man. It changed me on, like, me as a woman. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And let me tell you something, you guys. This right here, I got this for a reason. Whether you choose to open it or not, you need to have it. It's one of those things to where we indulge ourselves in so much spiritually that it's like we talk so much, but we'll never open this book. And some people say we don't need to read, we don't need to go to church. If you want to talk about the Christianity and being in church and being a woman of God, look, at so much out there. And I'm going to say so much out there because this is something I had to learn. I got closer to God when I got out of church. You want to know why? Because I took that time and I had to find the relationship that I had to find out to how to build a relationship with myself to even articulate and understand what God was saying when He got to talking to me. So I was in church prematurely, not understanding who I even was. And sometimes they say, hey, get in church and it'll teach you your journey. But sometimes we have to sit with ourselves and understand, what do we believe? How do we communicate with God? Because sometimes you can't hear God's voice when you're in the midst of people. So for me, I took a break from a lot of stuff and I got so much closer to God. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, now when I go to church, I pick up so quick. I pick up every spirit that be in the room. I know who I am. And, you know, I fight every day to get back to where I was. But at the end of the day, He like, I don't want you to be the same person that you was. I want you to be the person I'm creating you to be.